Well, thank you for listening to the Big Blue Podcast. I'm Greg Stone, here as always with President Leigh Goodson. Dr. Goodson, how are you?
I'm doing great. We've had a fabulous day.
We are once again recording here at the Owasso Community Campus during convocation, and we have now who are like two regulars who are coming onto the podcast. That's Dr. Lisa Gerow, Associate Professor of Nursing, and Paula Setton, Dean of Libraries and Knowledge Management, and Professional Development Day guru, and whatever else, HLC liaison, everything else that Paula does for us.
And then United Way Chair, right?
And United Way
it's
Co-Chair.
like it's Paula Setton Day.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
but we wanted to have the sort of a final chat with the two of you as we get ready for our HLC accreditation site visit, which is coming up September 24th and 25th. And so we just thought it'd be good to have the two of you back to just check in one last time and just give all of our employees who might be listening some reminders about what to expect in that visit and just sort of get a sense of how you feel the process is going. So if you would, because we do have some new folks who've been recently hired who might be listening in, what is the purpose or benefit of accreditation? Let's start there with the basics. And how does it impact both our employee, but especially our student success? Whoever wants to jump in.
Well,
Lisa?
accreditation is really important because if we're accredited, then our students can transfer classes, their courses that they take at TCC, to other colleges. And also, being accredited allows the students to receive financial aid, so it's really important. And it shows in general that we are a quality college, and we're people look up to that.
Right.
So.
And then the product that you all have been sort of leading us through, and let's not leave out Jonna Schweinberg, who's been so integral, and the other people who have been helpful in putting together the assurance argument, which is that now, thankfully, online document, series of Word files and PDFs that demonstrate how we meet those criteria for the HLC, Higher Learning Commission, right?
Yes.
So you were on the podcast back in March, and which is why Greg said you're regulars, because we've never had anyone back so fast. But we're kind of at this intense time in our site visit. And we decided that we would have a mock site visit back in April. And we had a couple of experienced reviewers come and kind of walk us through a mock site visit, just so we could get a little bit of practice. Tell us how that visit went from your perspective, and how did that practice improve the assurance argument that you recently submitted to HLC and is now online?
I think one of the things it did was it helped the employees realize what it was going to be like. So many people weren't here in 2009, and so it gave a little more familiarity of what's going to be coming, and it helped people relax a little bit because they saw the kinds of questions. Mm-hmm. But the other thing that helped, I know Lisa and me particularly, were the mock reviewers saw things that, when you live somewhere, you don't notice. You just see things and you don't think about it sometimes. And then when you have out-of-town guests, they're like, oh, this is the most amazing stuff. Can you tell us more about it? And that's the kind of thing that we got, was the mock reviewers literally gave us pages of notes where they said, you mentioned this, but it would be great if you would write more about this. One of the things that they did was say things like, restate this sentence and maybe give us more information about that kind of thing. They talked about the new model of shared leadership, and they said, it's a complicated model with these councils and committees, and you really, in the argument, give us more examples, explain a little more to us, show us a little more about it. And so those were things that Lisa and I were able to take back and really do a little more work with. So it made a stronger argument in addition to making us feel more confident.
Well, I know we've had some communication that's gone out college-wide about what the site visit entails, but maybe give us sort of a high-level overview about what this is actually going to be like, because it is going to be in some ways different than the last time around, because HLC was on a different type of model. That was sort of the last year where you had to build an evidence room and haul in file cabinets, and I think interior design students designed the space. So now it's all digital, which means the visit itself is shorter because they're seeing materials about a month in advance, right? But what are those 2 days going to be like, Lisa? What should employees expect, and how can they get involved and participate?
Right. Well, the reviewers will come to the Metro campus on Monday, and they'll spend all day Monday at the Metro campus in meeting with different groups. There's various forums that are have been posted. So we're really encouraging the faculty to attend the faculty forums and the staff to attend those. There'll also be some criteria forums, so criteria 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 5. And so we encourage, especially like faculty, since I'm a faculty, I think of this, but to attend criterias 3 and 4 would be great for faculty. Anybody.
Because those are the two about teaching and learning,
Yes,
right?
about teaching and learning. But we want a lot of participation. So the reviewers will be here in various areas on all day Monday and then half a day Tuesday at the Metro campus, and then they will, 1 or 2 will probably go to the West campus. That is the other campus that was the random campus that was drawn for them to look at, since we have multi-campuses.
So it's randomly selected?
Yes.
I see. Interesting. Okay.
And for the staff-only sessions and the faculty-only sessions, that means faculty-only, staff-only.
Absolutely.
So you're not going to have administrators taking notes about who says
No.
what. I mean, it really is an open forum for the site reviewers to hear from those employee groups.
And that's
Yes.
all 5 of those forums are either faculty or staff only?
No, now the criterion forums are for anyone.
Okay.
For everyone.
Okay, but there's
Even
other
people in the
faculty.
community can come to the criteria.
Yes.
Right.
Okay.
I think we have 2 faculty-only forums scheduled and then 2 staff-only forums.
Okay. Wonderful. I'm Leigh Goodson, here with my co-host, Dr. Greg Stone, and you're listening to the Big Blue Podcast. Our guests today are Paula Setton and Dr. Lisa Gerow, and we've been talking about our upcoming HLC accreditation visit, which we've been preparing for over a year now. And can you just tell us, Paula and Lisa, what preparation still needs to be made for the site visit? It's like there's going to be some things you can't do that far ahead of time. And so we still have a few things left. And then what can employees do to be ready for the accreditors?
Well, Lisa and I chair an HLC assurance committee, and I don't know that people know that there is an actual committee that's involved in this work. And that group will be looking at different roles they're going to play, because we'll need people to pass microphones around at some of the open forums. We'll have people who will maybe need to take reviewers to the conference center, or because we do have one meeting at the conference center to review faculty credentials with human resources. We'll need people to just help them find wayfinders. So we'll be looking for people for that, and we'll primarily look at the committee. But the thing I think that everybody can do, as Greg mentioned earlier, the review is online, the assurance argument, the 115 pages, which I'm sure not everybody wants to read, but there is a 12-page summary, and we really recommend people to read the summary if they don't have the time to invest in the full argument, and that'll give people an idea.
And Lisa, you're a site reviewer as well, so you've got some experience of being on the other side of this too. And I always kind of get this sense, and you can tell me if this is true or if this is just accreditation lore, that site reviewers sometimes might just sort of stop and ask random people questions about the institution. And does that really happen, or is that just one of those stories that gets around?
I think that's a story that gets around.
That's good, because
That's an urban myth. Yeah.
it's an urban myth
Yeah.
about accreditation.
Because they're really going from meeting to meeting, and
So it's not as though someone needs to memorize key points of the 12th page, but to be prepared for the discussions that happen in those forums.
right.
It's probably a good idea to just at least browse through the
Exactly.
summary document.
Right, because they'll go to the forums and they'll have read the argument in advance and have some questions that they want to verify. So it's all about verifying. And so they'll base their questions, and they're not going to point someone out. You answer this question. You answer this. It's just going to be very open and tell me about assessment. How are you doing assessment now?
And Paula, there's a role for students too, right?
That's right. There is actually an open forum for students that is student only. And so we are working with our True Blue lead and our student associations to get the word out that students.
Good.
We also put that one in the Commons at Metro, thinking that students might just wander through and join in. So,
Good.
but because we do want student
Yeah,
participation.
that's a great idea in terms of location.
Yeah, students also received a survey back in April from HLC asking for their feedback on the college, and we got 880, isn't that right, Lisa?
That's
Yeah.
amazing.
really good.
Responses. Yeah, it was we were impressed with the number of students, and it was very positive. I mean, very positive. So we were pleased.
So just as we get ready to wrap up, what happens after the site visit, right? I mean, we're all so focused on September 24th and 25th, but that's, of course, not the end of things, right? So what happens after that site visit, and when do we find out whether we're offered a credit, or whether our accreditation is reaffirmed, right? Isn't that the actual?
We don't officially find out till next year, but we unofficially find out before then. Their due date back is October 12th. Okay. So the team has to write a report and turn it in on October the 12th. Then we'll get a copy, and we get the opportunity to respond to it and, make clarifications or suggest corrections and things like that. And then after that, Lisa, help me, what happens next?
Then it'll go back to the team, they'll review it, and then it will go to the Institutional Actions Council, or IAC, of HLC. So that's a separate committee that will read the report and then kind of do their own little verification to see if they agree with that, or if they don't agree, if they have other questions. And then from that, we'll receive our final answer.
Right. We'll pretty well know when we see the reviewers.
Mid-October.
I would say mid-October we'll have a really good idea
Of where it's going to go.
But officially we won't know until the spring.
Are there areas that you're more or less concerned about in terms of not in terms of how well the argument was presented, but just in terms of systems, processes? I mean, are there things that are kind of on your radar that you're wondering about?
Well, I think we know assessment will be something that will come up. We've done a ton with assessment. We've got a great infrastructure. It's just we haven't been doing it
Very long.
Yeah. So I think they will be impressed with what we're doing, and just maybe want to see it continue.
Yeah, they want to see some guarantee that we're staying the course.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And I think they'll look back to the 2006 review that we received during this ice storm, remember? And in that one, assessment was something that they told us we need to work on improving. They also told us to look at internal communications. Yep. And we've made changes in the last few years in both of those areas, big significant ones.
And faculty credentials.
And faculty credentials
was a big item
one.
on their list the last time. So we've made a lot of progress on a lot of areas, for sure.
We have, and I think one of the big things they're looking for is a plan. And, we talk about, it'll end after this visit, but with this open pathways, it really doesn't. In 4 years, we have to produce another assurance argument, and it's also read, and then usually that one, they read it and then they move on to the next thing. And then in years 5, 6, or 7 in there, we have to do another quality assurance movement. I forget what it's actually called, assurance initiative. Yeah. And then, so it doesn't end. And right. I think that's important for people to realize is that there's no end to this anymore. Right. It really is continuous improvement.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's a living document. Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you've both done a great job along with Jonna in helping to get us to this point. Lots of people helping out along the way, and we're almost there.
Almost there.
Yeah.
Well, you've been listening to the Big Blue Podcast. We want to thank our guests, Paula Setton and Dr. Lisa Gerow, for spending time with us today. And we want to thank you for listening. Remember, you can catch the Big Blue Podcast each week in the week at TCC and on the Creativity Channel at YouTube. We'll see you next time. Thanks for being with us.
Thanks for coming back.
Thank you.